The Bucks have been going through a bit of a rough patch as of late. Before last night, they had lost 4 of their last 5 games, with the only win coming in a nail-biter against the 5-28 Spurs. Despite holding a top 2 seed for most of the season, their play has constantly been called into question. Will Damian Lillard ever figure it out? Do they have good enough role players to push them over the edge in a 7-game series? And with the 29-8 Celtics next up on the schedule, let's just say that they use this big-time matchup to make a statement. It all started with the play of Lillard. Their first points of the game came on a classic Dame step-back 3 in semi-transition, and just under a minute later, they ran him off a cross screen into open space on the left wing. White does a pretty good job of sticking with him, but when shooters of that caliber are feeling it, there's nothing you can do. So a few possessions later, he sets up with a high ball screen, and instead of dropping back, Porzingis comes all the way out to the 3-point line to not give up the jumper. Dame counters by bursting into a drive and takes it all the way to the rim for a tough finish. Because he demands so much attention, whenever he sets up these screening actions, the rest of his team all of a sudden becomes a lot more open. This time it's a pick and pop with Brook Lopez, and notice how Porzingis is forced to stick with the ball, otherwise there'd be a wide open baseline drive. That of course leaves Lopez with a ton of room on the perimeter as he sets and fires for 3. Here's another example that starts with the Dame and Lopez 2-man game. Except this time Dame's gonna drive down the middle, drawing aggressive help at the nail. That leaves Malik Beasley, who's shooting 48% from 3 on the season, with more than enough space to comfortably step into a jumper of his own. It's not just Dame who can initiate the offense like this either. Chris Middleton can also run the pick and roll and score in a wide variety of ways. And all that's to say, this Milwaukee squad has a ton of different options. None of this is new though. You could make the argument that they've been one of, if not the best offensive team in the NBA this season. What felt different against Boston was their intensity on defense. They weren't giving up any easy switches, which the Celtics of course like to hunt for, and they also weren't over helping to let them create advantages, which resulted in a heavy diet of isolations. Once the offense stagnates, that's when Brook Lopez is able to put on a clinic of paint protection. This time you're going to see him completely stonewall Porzingis in the low post, and on this next one, it's a perimeter isolation from Jason Tatum. What I want you to focus on is how the Bucks position themselves. Both Dame and Beasley stay home, so there's no kick out to either corner. Brook rotates early from the weak side so that he's in position to protect the rim, and Giannis is going to play in between 2 shooters up top so that the defense can scramble to recover if Tatum decides to hit one of them. That's not what he does though, instead putting his head down and trying to score through traffic, which results in a block for Lopez. There were lots of Celtic possessions that ended with low percentage pull-up jumpers as a result of never touching the paint, while on the other end, they had to deal with a paint touch pretty much every single time down the floor, courtesy of the wrecking ball that is Giannis. And that's the thing. When you're able to stagnate the offense and get stops, you're able to create more runouts. Now all of a sudden Giannis is attacking a defense that isn't properly set. Not that it matters much anyways, because he's completely unfazed by any rim protector a defense throws his way. Porzingis is 7'3" with a 7'6" wingspan, but it's like he's not even there at all. Giannis' ability to apply constant pressure on the rim, of course, demands extra attention, resulting in a collapse of the defense, which in turn creates open threes and helped lead Bobby Portis to his best game of the season. Here's another one that starts with a Giannis drive and kick. Portis draws a hard closeout and lets him fly by before sidestepping into open space and pouring in 3 more of his 28 points. It wasn't just outside shooting for Bobby though. This one starts on the defensive end where he steals a pass and leads the break. He takes it all the way to the rack for a layup that pushed the score to a lead of 41-23. An 18-point lead after one quarter is certainly a way to start, but I think the beginning of the second is where they really started to take off. It started with this Giannis post-up against Holiday. The Celtics make an effort to pack the paint, so he falls back on a little bump midi over the top. Then it was another post-up, but this time for Middleton against the smaller Pritchard. He creates a decent look but doesn't convert, only for Andre Jackson to crash the offensive glass and kick it out to Bobby Portis, who just so happens to still be feeling it from deep. Their next possession again started with a second chance opportunity. A long rebound ends up in the hands of Connaughton, who quickly moves it over to Giannis with nobody in front of him. And the only way to prevent an automatic 2 points is to send him to the line. In general, Boston just straight up didn't have an answer for his dominance. This time he catches the ball inside the restricted area, and although seemingly the entire defense collapses to get it out of his hands, once he's got that position, you might as well start setting up your offense. Quite literally everyone was feeling it. It got to a point where we're watching Bobby Portis isolate from the corner and hit a step back midi. And the Celtics eventually tried to counter by throwing out a zone, but to no avail, as Brook Lopez just catches the ball right in the middle and makes it look way too easy. Look at the score after that made basket, 56-23. At one point in quarter number 1, the score was 31-23, meaning that they just scored 25 straight unanswered. Now, I will say that holding Boston to 0 points during that stretch did require some luck from the basketball gods. They were creating some decent looks from 3, but just simply couldn't buy a bucket, shooting 1 of 16 or 6% from deep in the first half. You could make the argument that they were over-relying on the 3 ball if you wanted to, and I wouldn't push back much because they really couldn't get anything in the paint. But I also think how poorly they shot is a clear sign that they just didn't have any legs. After playing 5 games in 7 days, including an overtime thriller against the 1 seed in the West, you probably won't be at your sharpest. With that said, I definitely don't want to discredit the Bucks defense in any way, especially their effort. They had some really great defensive possessions fueled by the rim protection of Lopez. Here's one that starts with Drew pushing the pace in transition, and he gets all the way to the front of the basket, only to get turned away by the big man. Luckily for them, Brown beats his man on a backdoor cut, only for him to then run into Splash Mountain, and he's gonna test the waters unsuccessfully. For most of the second quarter, the Celtics continued to try getting points on the board with iso ball, and it just straight up didn't work. No matter who tried, they were pretty much all getting shut down. And it wasn't just a result of one-on-one matchups putting in work, but again, the way they're setting up their defense. This time it's a Drew post-up. Brook comes over from the weak side wing to double, and logically, that means Porzingis is open up top. Holiday thinks so too, but Giannis is using his length to take away that lane, deflects the pass to force a turnover, and that of course leads to some real easy offense going the other way. As for the offense, everything that worked in quarter number 1 continued to work in the second. You had Dame torching the defense with pull-up threes when given even an inch of room, and at the exact moment the Celtics decided to play him more aggressively, he would turn the corner for some more of that driving game, just dissecting them as a scorer. Whenever anyone on the team did miss a shot, which felt rare, they continued to dominate on the offensive glass. Before even coming down with this one, Jackson immediately whips it out to Lopez for another high-quality 3. They ended the first half with an impressive 8 offensive rebounds. This time it's Giannis who pulls it in, and like I mentioned earlier, if he catches the ball that close to the basket, good luck stopping him. That's actually how their last possession of the half went. A broken play ends up in the hands of Dame, and when he drops it off to Giannis, All it takes is one power dribble, an up fake, and he's scoring over the top of the unicorn. That tough finish made it 75-38, an important number because that would be the final score of the half and enough for Joe Mazzulla to wave the white flag. That's right, Boston started the second half with an all-bench unit and their starters would not return. It only took 24 minutes for the Bucks to effectively put this game away, and that's because during that time, they had a net rating of 75.5. I still think they have some work to do if they want to emerge as the frontrunner in the East, but this performance against the top dog was certainly a statement to all who doubt this Bucks team. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn my post notifications on to be first on more content. If you're interested in my more in-depth research, make sure to check out my website and social media profiles. You can find those links in the description. Feel free to let me know down in the comments what you think of the Bucks. As always, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.